This is part number 5 in the series of tutorials for completing our target application. It's also the third one in stage 2. Let's look at the written guide. In the written guide, the last thing we've done in the previous part was to construct and test the lighting container. And when we turn the lighting container on and off, we see a significant, light, dark, and so on. And it's going to be initially on. It's going to be turned off only when we run out of bullets. And the next step, which is one of the last things that we need before we can start adding scripting, is our UI, our user interface, where we will see points and how many we shot and how many we have left and how many we hit and missed and so on. So step number 30. On the sample scene, we're going to create a game object, an empty one. We're going to call it UI and reset. It's not going to be a child of anything. UI and reset. Then let me bring this closer so it'll be easier to look at screenshots. Then inside UI, as a child, we're going to create a legacy text. As we will discuss in our lectures, there are two main kinds of text in Unity: the legacy text and also the Text Mesh Pro. Each one of them has advantages and disadvantages, and we will get to use both of them throughout these courses. But we will start with the legacy text. Where do we find it? We are going to right-click on UI, go to the category UI Canvas, all the way down to Legacy and Text. As you can see, when you create that, it actually creates two more things. One of them that we never touched, called Event System, and the other one is called the Canvas. Think of the canvas as the piece of paper, and the text is the contents that we put on it. So, in the component text legacy text box, we're going to type the words bullets ZZZ. And we're going to give it all those settings that we see in the screenshot. So I'm going to move it a little bit so it'll be easy to compare. So text, and the text itself, instead of the words new text, I'm going to type it's just a filler, just so we can see something. Later on, of course, it'll be replaced with actual messages. Now, let's see what's important to change. First of all, I'm going to anchor it on the left and top, which means if the screen gets bigger or smaller, its location, its X and Y, are going to be relative to the top left corner. In other words, all these numbers are from the left, from the top. And the numbers that I want are 700 to the left and negative 62 to the top, from the top. For right now, we're not touching the canvas. It's just, the canvas covers the whole screen. Other settings will be the width and height of this piece of text. 1310 and height 63. One of the main advantages of legacy text is the fact that we can choose and bring in any font we want very easily. We're going to change the font that's right here to a font called Contrax, which is a font that was part of the teacher's pack. In order to bring a font into Unity and use it with legacy text, all you got to do is just include it in the assets. That's it, and then it's usable. That's one of the biggest advantages of the legacy text. Then the font normal, the size is going to be 36. I don't know if you're noticing, but we can already see a little bit of text here. It's very dark because one of the next things we're going to change is going to be the color. But before we get to that, we're going to enable rich text, which means it can use all kinds of characters and embellishments on the text. It's going to be aligned left and top, and we're not going to check align by geometry, we're not going to check best fit, but we are going to change the color to some kind of a light color. I'm using, yellow. You can choose your own, whatever, and you can see that in the game window you should already see the text. Game window should look like this. Yes, it does. If it doesn't, that means that one of these numbers is, incorrect. Go back, check it again. The reason it's important to make it look like this before we continue is because we're about to duplicate it, and we don't want to duplicate 5 more times something that that doesn't have the right parameters. But if it does look right, we're going to duplicate it 5 more times to have a total of 6 of them in the canvas. So it's one piece of canvas, but with 6 pieces of text. And I'm gonna move it so I can read. I don't know what that word red is for. Duplicate 5 times. So I'm going to select this text, edit, duplicate, 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 and one more. And then I'm going to give it these names: fired, hit, missed, percentage, high score, message. Would be nice if it was, like capitals and stuff like that, but in this case it's not case sensitive. Hit, missed. Each one of them is a display of that piece of information: how many we hit, how many we missed, percentage, which is kind of like the point of the whole game, to get the highest percentage of of targets you hit. High score, which is like you're trying to beat your own high score. And message. The message is going to be, game over, do you want to play again, stuff like that. So now I have 5 of them, or 6 of them, but they all still look like 1 because they all still have the same coordinates. So what we're going to do now is, in step 35, we're going to move the Y position, the up-down position of these text, as follows. All the other parameters stay the same. Fired stays 62. -62. They're all negative because they're going 0 is the top of the game window, so negative means lower than. Hit is going to be -112, and it's just to bring them down a little bit, so they're more or less even. Then 162 for the next one. I think you can notice that it's 50 pixels each. Every time we go down, 50 more pixels. -212. High score, -262. And message, 312. All of them negative. So now I should have them lined up like this. And the last one, just because it's a message and I want it to stand out, we can change the text color. I've changed it to red. So I'm highlighting message, and in the text properties, instead of yellow, I'm going to change it to some sort of reddish, whatever. Later on, these are things we can change. As long as we can see it, we are good. Game window should look like this. Good. Especially when we're in VGA. Later on, we can change the proportions and so on. Then we're going to add 2 more things to the canvas. So we highlight the canvas, and we're saying, in addition to all those texts, we're adding 2 more things. We're adding 2 more buttons. One for a replay button, which will show up only when the round is over, when we run out of bullets, and another one which is an exit or a quit button to exit the game. Again, just like we used legacy text, we're going to use legacy buttons, and we're going to, first of all, create one of them. So when we have a nice one, we'll be able to duplicate it. So canvas, right-click, UI canvas, legacy button. You can see the button is already created. Make sure that it's not TextMesh Pro, also abbreviated TMP. We're going to name the button Replay. And then position it. Top left, left, and top. It means it's not at the top left, but anchored at the top left. Its position is going to be 170 from the left and negative 372. Oh, pretty close. Then its size, 250 by 60, so it's a little bigger. Then a little bit of just colors and stuff like that. I'm going to change its color to like nice and green. But you can do it to your own taste. I'm going to change nothing else here. And the only other thing that I'm going to change, yeah, it should look like this, and it does, is unfold the button and give the text legacy inside the button the following parameters. Because inside the replay button, there's a piece of text that says replay. I want it to say replay because right now it says button. I'm typing it in capital letters just because I think I like it, that buttons have capital letters. And the other things I'm going to give it are, inside the button, I want it to be stretch and stretch. In other words, that the text will stretch to the size of, the box that it's in. The text will say replay. The font will be also that Conthrax. I like that font. The size is going to be 30, a little bigger. That already looks good. Line spacing 1, rich text, and the color, yeah, pretty much the way it already is, like dark gray. I like it. If replay button looks good, duplicate the replay button. Just to show you how I would test, does the replay button look good? Well, first of all, I can see it like this in the, the game window. But also, if I change play focused to play maximized and then hit play, it makes the game window full screen, and then I can really judge if it's too big enough. One of the great things about this is because it's all inside a canvas. Later on, if we want to, when the game is like ready, I can go to the canvas, and one of the properties of the canvas is canvas scaler, and scale factor 1 means like the size I got now, but I can make it smaller or bigger by making it bigger than 1, smaller than 1, and then without having to scale each one of them separately. But for right now, our last step will be going back to the replay button. Our last step in the UI. If replay button looks right, duplicate the replay button, change its name to exit, and give it the following settings. So replay, edit, duplicate, instead of replay 1, exit. And we're going to give it the following parameters. I want the exit button to be around here, like top right corner, which is one of the first things I'm going to do. Is change its anchoring to top right instead of top left. Change its location to negative 170. Yeah, it's negative 1. It's basically the same location, only from the right. It's like the margins. And negative 62 from the top. So pretty close to the top. The only other thing I'm going to change about it is, make it a different color so they stand out. And unfold the exit button, change the text from replay to exit, and I also changed the color. I unfold exit, select the text, change the words to exit. If you want to call it quit or, abort, whatever. And I just like it when it's more like, like a yellow color, but that's like just a matter of taste. And maybe, some people would say, oh, I like it also to be bold and so on. I like what I see. My screenshot looks like my screen. By now, game window should look like this. And here's something important. After we have all of those, we're going to go to the replay button and disable it. Disabling it by unchecking it. So it exists, it just waits to be enabled. It's going to be disabled throughout the game and get re-enabled when we run out of bullets. It's just ready there. Then one of the last things we need to do is to add a tag. We're going to talk about it in class, why we need a tag. The idea is that the target, when it gets hit by the bullet, it needs to know that it's the bullet, because it could be just like, bumping against the wall. So when something touches it, the first thing it's going to ask is like, who touched me? And since we're going to instantiate bullet after bullet after bullet, there's going to be something that marks it as a bullet, and that's called a tag. It's just like a hashtag that makes it belong to something. It's marked. It's like meta information. So how do we add that? We're going to select the prefab bullet container, and we're going to add the tag bullet. It takes 3 steps, and the tag is going to be case sensitive because it's going to be tested in a script, and scripts are always case sensitive. How do we add a tag? First of all, we see that it says untagged here. We pull down this menu and we go to add tag. Right now we see that the list is empty. We click plus and we add the name bullet in lowercase. Save. There's already some pre-existing tags like player and so on, but right now we're creating our own custom one. And I'm saving. And now there's a tag called bullet. But that's not enough, because the third step would be to select the object again, open my prefabs, select bullet container again. It's still untagged, but now I can actually select my own custom bullet. So bullet container tagged as bullet. So we just did all those 3 steps. We selected, we dropped, we added tag, we added to the empty list, we clicked save, then we selected the prefab again, pulled down the menu again, and selected bullet. And this is the end of stage 2. This is significant because actually all the objects that we need for the game are done. We have our room, we have our UI, we have our bullet, we have our target with a built-in explosion. We have the miss impact, the hole in the wall, also with its built-in explosion. And we got the walls, which are also going to listen for any stray bullets hitting them to instantiate the hole in the wall and the sound. So stage 3 is going to be all about adding the scripting, the interaction. I will see you at stage 3.